So, we're going to talk about Shameless, the complete 9th season.
9 seasons,
and Polyester.
The complete only season.
It was a very interesting movie. It was not good. But,
well, more interesting than it was good. There's some things in it that were okay,
well,
but I fell asleep during
writing,
it.
honestly, they could have made a good movie. But
I think so.
all of the acting was really bad. It was very yellow,
I like Divine.
over the top. Yeah.
I liked it. She actually wasn't over the top, really.
No, you're right.
But I thought she did a great job.
I mean, maybe a little. But
a little over the top, but she
acceptable.
didn't. It was acceptable.
Comic over the top, sort of. Yeah, but the others were not. Comic.
No, it was
just bad.
Bad directing.
And
really. Bad casting, I guess.
Yeah, bad so much. But what was interesting about this is I will show you.
Like, this is supposed to be a classic, right?
It comes with a little card.
Scratches.
Odorama. Do not scratch until you receive instructions from the film. And nobody, well, I can't say
smells.
nobody will.
I like the pizza smell.
You know, at first I was like, wow, I'm lucky I got this before other people, or, you know, maybe I'm the second person who got this, or third out of the library, or whatever, before other people did, and this went missing. That's what I'm thinking, right? And it also comes with this poster. I will show you.
The poster's great.
The poster's great.
Yeah.
There we go. And I was thankful to be able to see this too. And it has a whole bunch of write-up about...
who did what when?
Well, all sorts of things. And, you know, how they often do with these... I don't know.
Classic things?
Yeah, things that are put out later, collectors, sort of, I don't know, Criterion collection. Anyway, so, I will tell you about the Odorama thing, which is very interesting. And
Spoiler alert, in case you want to be surprised.
Yeah, so if you want to be surprised, watch the movie first, because I'm going to talk about what all the scents are.
Yeah, there we go.
And when I first was introduced to the idea of Odorama, it was from Futurama, and they'd made a joke about that or whatever, smell-o-vision I think they called it. And then this is where the original joke would have come from, and I hadn't known about it. But so the scents, the first one is baby powder. So you're thinking, oh, this might be a good experience.
Yeah.
The second scent is shit.
It
smells like fart. It's very bad. And nobody wants to smell that. I had to get up and wash my hand. After scratching that, the smell was in my fingernail. Seriously.
The dogs love sniffing my finger after that. So.
The third scent was an awful chemical smell, because the sun was like huffing chemicals. I don't know what it was supposed to be, but it was terrible. And
turpentine, maybe.
Fourth scent was like, by that point, James said, I don't know if I want to smell it, because it's gonna be bad, you know. And then it turns out it's pizza, right? So then you get a little pizza and you think, okay, well maybe the next one won't be so bad. No, it's gasoline, the next one. So 5 is gasoline. 6 is skunk, 7 is natural gas, and it really smelled authentically like natural gas. 8 is new car smell, 9 is stinky shoes,
oh my God,
and 10 is pine air freshener. So finally at the end you get something that's considered okay.
So you're feeling it all nauseated. Don't do the scratches.
Yeah, pretty funny. But that was really the only thing good about the movie, was the Odorama thing.
And if you want to get there are 10 different smells. If you want to get the full value, use a different finger for each.
For each scent, yeah. If you don't want to wash your hands after smelling shit, honestly. And that was a very authentic smell.
It was
After
pretty
the
bad.
fact, I was like, I have to go wash my hands.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
How did they get it on there?
I don't know. It's, Anyway, Now the complete 9th season.
Kind of lost my appetite there for a second, but
Oh, I'm so sorry.
it had to be done. This is good stuff.
I shouldn't have done the review while you're eating your chili.
Well, this Hmong chili's it's
so
awesome.
I added tomato sauce to that, and how do you feel about it? He was saying that my chili was too hot before.
This particular.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good right now.
Okay. So I'm glad I could fix it for you that way. Now, Shameless, complete 9th season. I'm not going to give away the ending. I don't know how it'll work out anyway, but
well,
honestly, like there's one.
Do they think it's going to come back for the next season? Maybe they're leaving the
I don't know
the door open to close the door.
What's going to happen there? But boy, those Gallaghers. And everyone who gets involved with the Gallaghers, like honestly, yeah, I don't find it. I find it disturbing watching it. Honestly, it's uncomfortable for me.
But I'm afraid there's a lot of families.
Yeah.
And not necessarily just trailer trash families.
I mean, there's certain things about the show that I think, wow, that's really well done. Like James was mentioning at the end, the 2 pillowcases that don't match on the bed. You know, that's
on
really
single bed.
Yeah,
that's like realistic.
And honestly, some things I can't even. You know, when I was first dating my ex. When I was a teenager, I thought there were some things that he did which were really interesting, and like he discovered that they had a box of mismatched socks that they'd just been piling all the mismatched socks in, and he decided, that's it, I'm just gonna wear mismatched socks, and so he had this box of socks, and he had socks every day after that. They never matched, and he didn't care. And
every so occasionally I'll succumb to the temptation, but the best thing would be just doing what he did.
Yeah. And but honestly, nobody would have a communal box of underwear for the whole family. Nobody would do that, you know.
Well,
but
who knows?
I don't know, the Gallaghers.
Yeah.
So, but whatever. So now from that, I would say that this is probably the best season of Shameless that I've seen. And maybe it's I've gotten to know the characters over the years and
makes
whatever, so it does, yeah. But
you start to care almost.
You don't want to, because boy, these people
they
beyond help. Like honestly, they wouldn't care about you.
Well, yeah. No, I've had members of my family. I won't say whether it's immediate or extended.
I mean, any amount of money that you throw at that is not going to help that. That you may as well flush your money down the toilet, because honestly, Frank's gonna get a hold of it and it's gonna be either drank or up his arm or what. You don't know.
Up his nose.
Who knows? Which, I mean.
And that's just how it would go the fastest. I mean, any one of them actually could blow that money, I think.
Yeah.
Except maybe the woman who takes care of the household. I think she's careful.
Well, she's not smart about money. I mean,
was that true? I don't know.
She ended up making a money off of a business, and then another. You know, she has some, but honestly, she doesn't have enough business sense to realize how the game's played, and that she's never going to actually become really successful.
Are you talking about the businesswoman?
I'm talking about Fiona. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the woman who runs the household.
Oh, you're talking about the young woman now,
exactly.
The teenage girl who has
she seems semi-responsible, really.
Yeah.
She's lippy and stuff like that. She's
she went and became a welder, and she's trying to do something useful. So she might actually.
Amazing. I thought she was a housewife, but you're right. She does the
welding.
She does
the work.
And when she does all the work around the house too.
Yeah.
I don't blame her for saying to people, "You pay your $70." Although when she's got a wee little sprite, 10 years old.
And anyway, I don't want to give away the season, because this one's actually worth watching. And it's a train wreck, you know, but whatever.
Yeah, some families are that way.
And the acting is good in it.
Very good.
Yeah. So it's worth watching. William H. Macy is awesome.
Oh yeah, and some of the guest stars were amazing too. Who were we noticing?
Well, they had in this one they had the mother from, now I can't remember what her name is right now. Why can't I remember it? But from what is that show? From with Kelly Bundy in it.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the show called again?
Well, Married with Children. It's Peg, right?
Peg from
Can't remember what her real name is.
What her real name is right now, but I should be able to remember it. But
she played a slightly different character, an intelligent person this time out.
And we talked about Futurama, which she was a character in that too, and she's great.
She does a great job.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people who show up in this. Go in, go out, whatever. But anyway, I'll get back to talking about Jeff Koons because that's what I've been talking about for a while now. And I'm going to be talking about, right now, the Made in Heaven with Jeff Koons and, how do I pronounce her name again?
Cicciolina, maybe? I don't know.
And so that's on page 119 of this book, the Jeff Koons Handbook. And I will just say that I was introduced to this Jeff Koons Cicciolina art project back at that time because I was dating the boy that I mentioned earlier. When I was a teenager, we dated. Well, he was 2 years older than me, but we were just kids, you know. And he was the son of the curator-director of the art gallery in the city that I lived in, and she had brought back this book, the director-curator, and was looking at it with her daughter, and then we were looking at it, and she, the curator-director, she did not think it was art. She was just like, he's not even good, you know, and this and that and whatever. She totally dismissed Jeff Koons. She had got the book because she knew it was popular and she wanted to see and evaluate fairly, but she couldn't get past her own whatever she, you know,
well,
hang-ups about things that so she couldn't actually evaluate it fairly. Yeah, she couldn't look at it.
So a person's motives, Dali or Koons, are reflected in a person's evaluation of their work. That's
and it
invalid.
Shouldn't be. Yeah. And James and I were talking about this yesterday, how Salvador Dali was a major influence of Jeff Koons, and how Salvador Dali, he does. And Salvador Dali was and is largely dismissed by the fine arts community, which is wild.
So one of his commie acquaintances, they were in kind of like a group together, surrealist group, just called him later on when he drifted away the group. I think he was actually expelled. Called him something like send more dollars or something like that. It's not a very good pun.
No, and anyway, but the thing is Salvador Dali had this Christian motif that he often played around with Christian motifs, and this would be.
This was like after World War II when he got into it in a serious kind of way.
Yeah, well, with his wife, he portrayed her as the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, that's after World War II. So.
And, well, his stuff got amazing at that point. Once he started playing around with I guess more Catholic, right? His influences were Catholic, not Protestant, and you can see it in the work. And that just made the art community like his stuff less.
This is true.
And it should not be that way. You should look at a person's work and understand the culture that they're coming from, and then evaluate it, without judging. That should be a part away from it, really. You understand where their art comes from because of that. Like, I remember I had an art instructor for a course, and she was talking about colors and how one culture red means this, and one culture red means this, and so she then, after explaining all of this, so she looked into this, that different cultures, like the colors that I see are not the colors that he sees. They don't mean the same exact thing, but we're from a similar culture, so they mean a similar thing to both of us. But they would mean a different thing to somebody from a totally different culture. And that's important to understand. And she had looked into that, and she knew that. She had actually educated herself to understand that colors mean different things to different cultures, to different people from different parts of different backgrounds, whatever, and people see colors differently. She did not understand how to evaluate that information, and she, at the end of her presentation to us about color, she said, so really colors mean nothing. And it's like, wow, that's what you get from that? No, you have to understand that colors mean everything, but different things to different people. And when you're looking at the art, you have to evaluate it that way. So if I'm looking at art from Japan, from a Japanese person, where red means something, I have to know what that means in order for me to evaluate it properly. And if I don't do that, I am ignorant. When I'm trying to evaluate their work, it means I'm not evaluating it properly, unless they're trying to present it from a different perspective or whatever. Then I have to evaluate it accordingly.
So
right?
What she was saying was something the equivalent of saying language means nothing. Language, to a large extent, or maybe to a great extent, linguists would say generally, almost entirely, is, I think what she might have meant to say is it's arbitrary. Language is arbitrary. No, I don't think it is. Like the word for dog in many languages, maybe most, has a dental in it. You think, you see what I'm saying? So something to do with the teeth. And, if you don't think of teeth when you think of dogs, yeah, you're kind of weird. So canine, the N is a dental, right? Or an alveolar, which is just the next thing to a dental. So I think linguists have got it somewhat wrong. What's the Chinese word for a cat? Meow. So I didn't do the tone properly, but at any rate, so there's a certain degree of non-arbitrariness, but I think that's maybe what she meant to say. But she's going from notes. She should get it right. Languages mean something, and there's a language of color, and that would apply to every language. And frankly, every individual would have his or her own idiolect, which is your own personal vocabulary and to a certain extent grammar, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time, like with me, it's very hard for me to communicate vocally. I have a very hard time with it. How I express myself is through my artwork. And James can read it. He looks at my stuff, he knows what I'm feeling.
Man, oh man, when I was sick and you were so stressed out, remember they hadn't even figured out I was terminal, but luckily enough they were wrong. But she did this one thing where it was just like a flaming field. It was like the original picture was taken
I toned down the color a lot because
March, I think.
He couldn't have.
Oh, it was too much color. See, this is the thing about idiolect. Like if you're feeling sick, like Sylvia Plath talked one time about being in hospital. I think it was after a suicide attempt, and she was talking about the red flowers that someone had sent to her, and she was talking about how it was just like aggressive. It was like killing her or something like that. Well, this wasn't killing me, but it was like a punch to the gut. So Pauline toned it down, and it still is very, very strong. And she made this field look like flame, And in the back, it was the flame was coming this way, and it was like of the river bottom here with the bridge there. It looked as though the flame was coming this way, and it left all the stuff around the bridge itself. It looked as though the fire had burned the bridge, and then the trees underneath the bridge, because it was trees not this time of year, but a couple of months down the road, so there are no leaves on them and stuff like that, and they were dark in the background. So it looked like this amazing fire that was sweeping towards, guess what? A friend of ours there was walking the little dog, and the guy was walking kind of oblivious into this fire. He was on a path, and there was fire on both sides, and this wee little dog was off to the side, right in the fire, right? And then it's coming right towards Pauline, who's taking the photograph that it was based on. It was a powerful piece, and Pauline was using those colors. She's got a very strong sense of color. So.
And the dog ended up dying.
In very short order.
It was always. It took everything for us to keep that dog from killing himself. Honestly, he was a wild one.
Well, yep, this is true.
And when James and I were in Edmonton, when James was getting the cancer treatment, he was being house sat by somebody, and he didn't make it. But anyway.
Yeah, so he lasted maybe a little over half a year after the photograph was taken. Definitely less than half a year after Pauline was painting the picture. And Pauline called him Tornado. And boy, did he live up to that moniker. And
he was a tough one.
I can remember him. I was walking him on a trail that was like northern. It was in Manitoba. It was like northern
you had
Ontario.
To really have him
and
on
he
in the
almost
harness.
went over like a 40-foot cliff.
There was that, and there was the time where the pelicans were on the water, and he was going to go for
I
him.
Still get.
He was going to go across like rapid water.
They were like
flow
200 meters away in a big lake, and he had such heavy bones. He's a little basset hound that he would have sunk. He wouldn't have been able to swim. But he saw that there was a cliff there, and then they were like 200 meters away.
And he sees him floating on the water, and he's thinking, I can walk across water somehow.
He'd be running.
Yeah.
And
oh boy!
Luckily enough, he didn't slip through the leash.
With that boy,
yeah.
He had to be watched constantly because he was.
So Pauline sensed it. That
anyway,
he was in danger. That we all were in danger, right? Because ultimately behind it was Pauline. It was just like this fire was rushing towards him.
Yeah.
So, and the guy who was walking was a stand-in for me. I was in such bad shape at that point in time. They hadn't diagnosed me with the bone marrow cancer. I couldn't go out. Pauline had wanted me to go out, and I said I couldn't do it. So this guy was a stand-in for me. And he was just kind of like walking obliviously down this path. Tornado, the way he was portrayed was even worse.
He wasn't a stand-in for you, James. He was himself, and you were supposed to be there too, but you weren't.
Oh, okay,
but
I didn't realize
he
it.
Was, it ended up I didn't know it at the time, but maybe I sensed it. He had dementia, and I didn't know. But anyway.
He was in trouble too. He might have had it at that point in time.
He probably did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I didn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to Chicholina and Jeff Koons. So, at the time, I was the curator-director. She asked me what I thought of the art. She asked me to evaluate it. And...
which you felt empowered by that or something.
Well, I was impressed. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I didn't think she thought anything of me, and I didn't know why she asked me. What I said was something like, well, I can't see which one is the artist. I can't see,
you actually said that back then.
Something
That's
like that. I couldn't see how the woman, here she is, she's displaying everything, and why wouldn't she be getting the credit for the work any more than
her background was in the porn industry. It's very perceptive.
So
she was in porn industry. She would be given credit for as being an artist, like an actor, right?
But I couldn't see whether, like at that point, didn't know whether it should be evaluated as art either. And just looking at it back then, I really couldn't see one way or the other whether.
Yeah.
But
Well, it
now,
was as much marketing as art. You had that sense, right?
I didn't know, but now I understand where Jeff Koons is coming from, and the university fine arts community, I guess, extended. It's more.
Clique. But go on.
It is. It's a marketing group. It's a group of yellows.
Absolutely.
They're not actually artists. They're self-promoters, and if they can't promote themselves, they better have somebody else to promote them, or they won't make it in that community. It's not about their art, it's about them. They are branding themselves, and their product is advertising for themselves, really, and they are advertising for their product. So anyway.
Yeah. And so what happens is an individual does that, gets into whatever clique it is, and they advertise for each other, and then they advertise for their whole clique. So you'll get these little clique movements. They've been around in French painting since before the time, basically, of Napoleon. You know, you'll get there was a classical movement, and there was a Rococo movement a little bit before then. And so it just went on and on and on. It seemed to last maybe 10 years. Impressionists, Expressionists, so on and so forth. Fauvists.
But really, it's an extension of the university cliques as a whole. And I will talk about that a little bit later, too.
Well, that's what it's gravitated towards. You know, like when you're reading about these cliques in the 19th century, there was an academy that kind of would determine who's going to be big and stuff like that. Now it's a different kind of academy. It's a university, right? But the academy's bad because they were conservative. Guess who's conservative nowadays? It's the universities and stuff like that, right?
Well, it's a different... Like, we were watching a video yesterday about... What was that woman's name? I can't remember her name. Okay. The woman with the vagina videos.
Barbara Rubin.
Okay.
The Barbarian Ruby.
Okay, so, and at one point somebody said she was trying to force people to look at things. And that is what yellows do. They are an aggressive personality type. They try to dictate what other people should see, what other people should think. So...
Feel as much as think, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not good or great thinkers. It's just that feel. I feel. The expressionists are all
so
that.
Page 119, Made in Heaven. This was 1989. Cicciolina is laying on her back in front of Jeff Koons with a halo of white flowers on her hair, white lingerie, including white fishnets and silver shoes. Her eyes are closed, her red lips open slightly, as if she is aroused. He stares straight at the camera without any indication of pleasure. And this is a power thing. When he's looking right at the camera. Now, one artist that I know who does figure drawing and really beautiful paintings, he was trying to